Now, are you paying to store stuff that you don't use? That's another question I have to ask you, because if you're storing stuff that you're not using and will probably never use again, that's a whole lot of money. And it came to my attention during the pandemic, 38 billion with a B, $38 billion industry for the storage unit every year. Okay. That's how much we're spending on storage units. And if you look on every corner, like I was driving around the other day and like, whoa, where did that storage shed come from? This huge monster storage area. And then on another corner, there's another one and another one. And they're every, I mean, it's not every mile. It's like 2 or 3 in a mile. You'll see these great big storage areas where they have all these little tiny, they're like sizes of garages or closets or whatever that people can rent. And the average family is spending $88 per month on storage to store stuff that they're never going to use. And they might go there once or twice a year. Most people don't go every day and like go through their stuff. Most people don't. They kind of put it out of sight, out of mind. Then they forget what they have. So we're spending money we may or may not have. Maybe you have it. That's awesome. Do you need to store it? Maybe. And there are legitimate reasons for having a storage unit. I'm not knocking the legitimate reasons, which is buying stuff from the Walmart, stuff that's on sale that I'm never going to use, and then putting it inside a storage unit and then paying to store it. That's not very wise either, right? So I had all these really weird, unhealthy relationships with stuff. And the question is, how do you know when you have enough stuff? How do you know when you have enough stuff? I'm a really big fan of books. I love my books. And it goes back to my youth. When I was young, I didn't have any stuff, but I loved books. Oh, I loved books. And we had a public library, and my mother allowed me to go to the public library every day. And I went to the library, and I was allowed to take 10 books home with me at a time. And my goal was to try to read all 10 books before I came back the next day. And there were a couple days, like on the weekend, they were closed, but I would read as many books as I could. And they would have these contests every year, and I would win every contest every year as the kid that read the most books. And I would take all my free time. I'd get up early in the morning before we worked, before we did our homeschooling. I would read. That was like my obsession. I read all the time. I was going to become as smart as I possibly could. And then I started buying books once I had the money. Check it out. I don't have to return the books at the library. I can keep them if I buy them and take them home. I know. I ended up with over 10,000 books. Talk about obsessive, okay? And most of them were really great books. I had like my own library, and they were cataloged or categorized. And I knew where all the different categories of the books were. And I used them as reference materials. And I loved my books. And then the question becomes, what are you doing with all the books? Because if you're a house cleaner, the question comes, well, you have to clean the books. You have to dust them. And they must be stored in a climate-controlled area so that the humidity doesn't get to them, or that rodents don't get to them, or that they get chewed, or that dust mites or whatever get inside and eat away at the pages. Or I don't know if dust mites eat pages, but whatever. However, books warp or fall apart or whatever. You got to protect your books. You got to protect your investment. The house that I live in right now, I'm so ashamed to say this, and I'm going to confess this to you guys. But when we built the house that I live in right now, I demanded a climate-controlled library for my books. And they took an entire bonus room and they reconnoitered it so that it's this climate-controlled area that would house all of my books. Shelf to shelf, floor to ceiling, just full of books. And I put all the books out on display in other areas of my house, bookshelf, floor to ceiling bookshelves. And then in the climate-controlled area, I had boxes of books. Okay, when am I going to read all those books now? Some of them I'd read half of, some of them I'd marked through, some of them, but it gets to the point, when are you going to read all the books? And so if we're having an honest conversation with ourselves, sometimes what was well-intended turns out to be that we create a new norm around something that's not necessarily of service to us. And where it becomes not of service is if I move to a smaller house, what happens with all the books? If I die, who takes care of all the books? Am I ever officially done with the book, and can I say goodbye to it, and can I pass it on? And it was several years ago when I realized that although I had everything in its proper place, I had a place for everything and everything was in its place, I had a really unhealthy relationship with my books. And the books represent to me great ideas. I love great ideas, right? I want to be smart. I want to learn new things. I'm a curious person. And so this to me represented like a world of information. Oh, wait a second. There's a world of information on my smartphone. There's a world of information on the computer. Do I need to limit the world of information to a climate controlled storage closet that I'm paying to store? How quick can I get rid of these books that I'm not going to ever read again? Right. And I had to have some honest conversations with myself.